Hey there, welcome back, buddy. I'm so happy to have you here in the second series of Mastering Admin Topics, which is the Salesforce Security. In this series, we are going to learn about the Salesforce Security not only theoretically but also solving some use cases. And at the end of the every video in the series, I'll be leaving the use cases for you to practice. And additionally, I will also be sharing the interview-based questions for each and every video. And in this episode, we are going to learn what is users, profile, and roles in Salesforce, and we are also going to create one. Let's take up a scenario. Let's say there is an university known as ABC University, and they opted Salesforce as a CRM, and they want all their internal members to use that particular CRM. And you are the developer who is going to help ABC University to configure the Salesforce as per their business requirement. Now, the first task for you is that you have to configure the role hierarchy in Salesforce as shown over here. Now first, let's learn how to configure role hierarchies in the Salesforce. For that, log into your Salesforce instance and go to the setup page and search for roles over here and click on roles. And the page that you will be seeing is not this one. Maybe I can show you the page that you will be seeing at the beginning. And yes, this is the page that you'll be seeing at the beginning, because by default in Salesforce, you'll be having a role hierarchy setup ready-made for you, but this might suit your business, might not suit your business. But here, this hierarchy doesn't suit our business, right? So the first task for you is that delete the existing role hierarchies from the lower to bottom approach. Let's say you are trying to delete the higher hierarchy, you'll be getting an error stating that there are sub hierarchies under you. Before you are deleting me, delete the sub hierarchies. So the best approach to delete the existing role hierarchy is to delete from lower to upper. So let me demonstrate that as well. Let's say I want to delete this, click on delete and click on OK. Yep. So this is how you will be deleting all the existing role hierarchies. Maybe if this tree grid structure is not suitable for you, you can change the view by clicking on over here. My comfort is show in list view. So it will be easy for me to see the hierarchy in a compact manner, and you can choose whatever you want. So once after deleting it, you should be creating the role hierarchy as per the ABC University requirement. So you please do create in this particular manner so that it will be easy for us to connect it with upcoming videos. So I have already created, click on new role and you'll be naming the role, and you should be giving this role reports to the higher hierarchy. No, it's straightforward. You can configure this easily. But let's say you are in the tree grid view. Let me just show you that as well. And you can click on expand all button to see the complete hierarchy. In order to create role in this particular view, you'll be seeing add role under each and every role. Click on that. And one advantage is that this particular field will be pre-populated as Salesforce know under which role you're going to create the sub hierarchy. Fine. Now let's see how to create users for ABC University in the Salesforce. So first of all, why do we even need user in Salesforce? As like we are creating an account on Instagram, Facebook and all to access that particular platform, in order for our internal users to access Salesforce, we have to create user record in the Salesforce for them. So let's see how to do that. And again, we have to go to setup and search for users over here. Click on users. And here you'll be seeing the list of existing users which are available in your org. If you want to create new user, you can click on this new user button. And this is the interface you'll be seeing. Before creating the user, I just wanted to share what is user license and profile in Salesforce, because these are mandatory to create a user. Now let's see what is user license in first place. So basically, user license is nothing but it will be providing the baseline level of access to feature and functionalities in Salesforce. Remember, each and every user in Salesforce can have only one user license, and let's say one of the business user doesn't need the full range of CRM functionality, but instead they just wanted to access only the custom application and custom object plus features like report and workflows. We can choose Salesforce platform as the user license because that is cheaper than standard Salesforce user license. But let's say, in the other hand, if you want your user to have full access to standard CRM application and object, and also the standard objects like account, contact, opportunity cases, you can go with the Salesforce user license. And there are also various range of user licenses as you're seeing over here, which will be varying in cost as well as the number of features the user is having access to. Now coming to what profile is, I just wanted you to imagine profile as a container with set of permissions. Permissions, for example, under which object you can able to create, delete, edit records, which tab you can see, whether you can able to access a specific field, so and so. As like we can assign only one user license to a user, we can also assign only one profile to a user. Okay. Now you might be thinking whether I have to create different profile for each and every role in my business, but that shouldn't be the case. Your profile should be having very minimalistic accesses. You should be widening up the access using the permission set. If you're hearing the permission set terminology for the very first time, don't worry. We will be exploring about that in the upcoming videos. Now let's see how to create a profile. For that, search profile in the setup, and we can actually clone the existing profile. We can't actually create a new profile altogether, but the best practice is to clone the standard user profile. So there is a profile known as standard user, which will be using the Salesforce as a user license. And this is the best practice because standard user will be having very minimalistic access. And let me name the profile as internal users, and I'm clicking on save. It seems that I have already created this profile. So let's create a user now. Let me go back to users page, clicking on new user. So just for simplicity, I'm going to create the user with the name as same as the role name so that it will be very easy for us to refer in the upcoming videos. So now I'm going to create a user for professor. Let me name the user as professor itself. And for email ID, you can give your own email ID or you can use Yopmail. Yopmail is nothing but a disposable email ID which we will be using for testing and practice purpose and all. So let me just give some Yopmail. And this is the email ID where you will be receiving the email links for resetting your password. And this is the email ID where you will be receiving the emails for resetting your passwords. And username, it can be same as email, but remember this should be unique across the Salesforce. It's not across your Salesforce instance only, it should be unique across the Salesforce. Okay. For example, I am giving my own personal username which I just configured in different instance, and you can change the nickname as per the preference. And for the role, I am selecting the professor. User license, I am selecting Salesforce because in this use case, we are going to explore objects like account, contact and all. So in order to have access to those objects, we have to select user license as Salesforce. And for the profile, I'm going to select internal users which we created, and let me click on save. Actually here the role is not mandatory, but I'm not sure why Salesforce just have the red color over here, but let it be. Let me click on save. And here you can see, even though I don't have any user with this particular username, it is throwing an error because it will be checking all over the Salesforce. Here you can see the username already exists in this or another Salesforce organization. Got it. So let me just copy paste the email address itself. I hope this is not being used somewhere else. Let me click on save, and yes, we successfully saved this particular user. But before saving it, I should have shown you some other information. Like you can configure the locally settings, like what is the time zone, locally language and all. When you are creating this user for the first time, here this checkbox will be by default checked. Okay. So generate new password and notify user immediately. What this checkbox will be doing is that it will be sending out an email to the specified email address to set your password and start using the Salesforce platform. So here you can see, to the email address which is specified over there, I got an email to kickstart my Salesforce journey. So this is in the perspective of that particular professor. When I'm clicking on verify account, it will redirect me for the reset password, where I can just set my password and start using the Salesforce system. Now you might be thinking, Kirba, can I even create unlimited users in developer edition? Or the answer is no. So basically we have only 4 Salesforce user license in the developer edition. Okay, my session ID got overridden by this particular change your password tab. I have to relog in. So basically we do have limited amount of user licenses in the developer edition org. To check that out, we have to go to company information, and here you can see the number of user licenses which is used and the remaining user licenses. But in this series, we might have to create more than 4 users. How we can do that? We can deactivate the existing users, which will be releasing the license from that specific user, which we can use to create another user. Let me demonstrate that. For that, let me search for users, and I'm going to deactivate the user which we just created, which is professor. I'm clicking on edit, and if you would have noticed, there is no delete button when you are clicking on the user. So actually you can't delete the user in Salesforce because there are some reasons like historical audit trail will be affected, which means Salesforce will be tracking who created a record, who modified the record and all. If you're deleting that user, that link will be deleted. And let's say your professor worked for a year and he left out of your organization, and let's assume you're deleting the professor user record, and you will be losing the audit track. What are the records he created, what are the records he last modified, so and so, so because of that reason, Salesforce doesn't have an option to delete a user. And also record ownership will get affected, and deleting the user will also make certain records orphaned, which means like a record can be owned by a specific user. Let's say you're deleting that user, those records will be orphaned, and some of the automations will also run on a specific user, upon deleting which those automations will get failed. So these are some of the reasons why we can't delete user in Salesforce, but we can deactivate them. And also we have a button known as freeze. The difference between freeze and deactivating the user is that when you're freezing the user can't log in into the Salesforce, but the license will be locked. The license will not be released. Let's say I'm freezing this user. Let me search for company information again to check the remaining licenses. And here you can see still the license is not be released. Now let me deactivate the user. But when you're freezing the user can't log in into the Salesforce. Okay. Now let me unfreeze it, and I'm going to deactivate this particular user. For that, click on edit and uncheck this particular active checkbox and save the record. Now going back to the company information and refreshing the screen, now we can see the used license is only 2, remaining licenses 2. So this is how we can create multiple users in order for us to learn at the beginning stage. Let's say you want to mimic as a professor, you will be deactivating the other user, activating the professor, login as professor to check how the permissions are getting affected. I hope you would have understood what is the difference between freezing a user and deactivating the user. And I do also have the differentiation table between deactivating the user and freezing the user for you to refer easily. And we can wind up this video by learning what is the difference between profile and role in Salesforce. The first basic difference is that profile is a mandatory thing when you're creating the user, whereas the role is not. Let me just demonstrate that. I'm on the user page. I'm going to remove the role as well as the profile. There's no option to remove only actually. So let me click on save. The user will be saved without a role, but profile is a mandatory thing. That is the first difference. And second important difference is that profile will be controlling object and field level security, whereas role will be controlling the record level security. Actually, these two are the main difference between profile and roles, and even all the remaining pointers will be pointing towards the same points which we just seen now. And use case for this particular video is nothing but whatever we have just seen now. You're going to mimic the same thing in your particular instance. You're going to create internal users by cloning standard user profile, and you're going to create this role hierarchy outline over here. And also you're going to create one user for each and every profiles. And you know the trick, you have to deactivate the existing user and activate the other user to manage between only 4 Salesforce user license which are available in the developer edition instance. And yes, that's the use case for this particular video. And as I mentioned, I do also have the interview questions which can be asked in this particular topic. and I'll be leaving this particular PPT link in the description for you to refer. And yes, that's it for this video. See you on next video. Thank you. Bye bye.